Hey guys, welcome back to another of Vendal's weekly arcade quest tutorials. So this weekly quest is another Viking-based one, and it's kind of interesting in the fact that you spend the entire time in the little arena. This means there's no ledges to ledge people on, thus there's less exploits. There is one phase that has a spike wall that can be kind of used. I'll explain why, kinda, later. But it's overall a fairly interesting quest. I like it because you really have to fight your way through. The first three phases are all pretty easy, but the fourth phase is a monster, and therefore we'll be devoting most of our time on this Sowa Mesa celebration quest tutorial to the fourth phase. However, I do want to give you an overview of the first three phases, and I'm going to be showing examples, some sped up, from all three of the characters that I cleared it with this time, rather than just my Aramusha, as that tends to be what happens. My Kensei is getting pretty close. I'll be able to have the right gear level here in just like a day or two, so for those that are still waiting for the Kensei video, he will be used in the next video I make next week. But as we get started, like I said, other than a death in the very first phase, I actually managed to clear the second and third phases on my very first attempts. So I'm going to show a quick preview here where I rush through all three of the original phases with the Aramusha because they're all fairly easy, but then we'll be taking a slower approach to them where I show off my Orochi and/or Shinobi on the phases, during which we'll discuss some of the finer points of what's going on in the fights and what makes them easy. As a final note, before getting into it, for character choice, no one's really going to excel here. Everyone struggles with something different because of the varied modifiers in the different phases, so really just make your way through with anyone. Well, let's get started. So I've been messing around with this whole time, speed thing. Gotta admit, it ends up a little bit comical. This first fight is kind of just a mob fest, where you have revenge and uninterruptible even when you're out of revenge. And that combination is essentially what you use for the win. We'll talk in detail later. The next fight, again, you've got a few perks that work well to you. In fact, you have Health Steal in this one. Health Steal, of course, allows you to make mistakes and still come back, making this one another fairly easy clear. It does take a little bit, though, with all the squeaking and dodging that the shamans do. The third phase is a little bit more interesting because there is a spike wall to use, but you're fighting two highlanders. We'll talk about the spike wall in detail later. Highlanders are pretty good at baiting things out because they tend to like using their superior block attack. That's really the biggest thing to look out for in this fight. But really, you carry through, and this one's not that bad either. Alright, so let's slow it down with Shinobi and talk about what's really going on in this first fight. You're up against three enemies, so during this part we'll talk just about the enemies. Your Raider is burning himself to death. He is immolating and gonna die, so you can pretty much just ignore him because he's gonna knock himself out here if you just give him enough time. He does have attack up as his hit points are reduced when he gets to low hit point. So when he's really low on health, you do have to be wary of him because he could jump in there and knock you out pretty easy with just one or two hits because of how much it enhances his damage. The Berserkers, on the other hand, have some health steal, but only level 1, as well as level 2 reduced damage. That level 2 reduced damage makes them fairly easy to handle, and they don't even end up stealing that much health. And you don't really have to be that afraid of them. That's kind of what makes this fight easy, is the fact that your enemies really aren't that strong. There may be 3 of them, but as we've discussed with revenge or anything else, it's pretty easy to handle a mob. So just learning to deal with the craziness of the Berserkers is the first step. So now we'll get down into the Orochi sample, and we'll discuss the benefits we have. First thing of note is we have uninterruptible. That means we can just kind of tank hits and do whatever we want while we're getting struck. Unless they have bashes, but these characters don't really have that too bad unless the Raider decides to sprint charge you for some reason. Next thing up, we have Revenge++. This combined with uninterruptible means that you've got a lot going for you. It's really easy for you to build up revenge even while dishing out damage, and you'll be able to just move forward. You also have a regenerating shield level 2. It's a little bit overkill, and honestly you're not even really probably going to use it because, well, the regenerating shield is just going to get absorbed by your revenge shield from time to time. This really is an easy first phase, but it can still gank you if you're not careful. Phase 2, or Chapter 2, is Angrboda's Offering. So this one's going to be up against 2 shamans. We're going to be speeding things up a little bit here. So we'll do the slow version here on the Shinobi. We have at our advantage health steal and damage up. This means you hit them and you're going to take a whole ton of health. One of them has some fire damage, but reduced regular damage. The other one stuns you when they hit you, but neither of them can parry. Again, making this a not so bad quest. Now, because these are assassins, they are still able to deflect. It's fun here with the Shinobi because this is one of the only fights in this one where they will not aggro to you unless you approach them or a very long time has passed. So if you open by attacking the one on the left, you will have a lot of time before actually having to deal with both of them, or you'll just, as happens here, take out the first shaman before you even engage the second. Now, there are some random meteors being thrown around the area, but I can't seem to figure out if they're targeting anything. It doesn't seem like it. They are entirely random, so they're not anything you really have to worry about. And again, as you're fighting, as long as you occasionally get off one tiny hit, you're going to be fine, because that health steal just makes this one really easy. I think I've died twice in this one when I've ran the quest 5 times, and it's simply because I was just goofing around. This one is very easy to handle as long as you don't get overwhelmed by the shaman's fast attacks. So, as we move on, we'll be doing a sped up version of the Orochi's fight very quickly. Essentially, though, the same thing applies for the Orochi, but because they can't parry, utilizing your dodge attacks anytime they throw out slows is another thing that's very valuable. Shamans have a very interesting mix of attacks, where their fasts come out as fast as any other assassins, but their heavies are really, really not good. For surprising people, anyways. They can be good used in the right situation. But the point being, use your dodge attacks because they're going to be trying to dodge a lot as the and you'll be able to catch them because the Orochi has the undodgeable technique added in there. So for a Fool's Rager, we'll start real time with the Orochi's demo. This is an interesting quest because there's a lot of peculiar modifiers making things work the way they do. And there are spike walls here as well. On our side, we have higher damage when our hit point's low. That's just okay. Infinite revenge, and then a overtime heal. Now that overtime heal only helps so much. I recommend trying to just quickly take out the first Highlander with the spike ball. Reason for this is he's got a little bit of extra damage, but he's just easy to deal with, and it's going to make your time easier. Since you can't get revenge, handling both of them at the same time isn't really an advantage because you're already in revenge. Another thing, it's really easy to get guard breaks off because of your permanent revenge, because it also gives you uninterruptible. That uninterruptible allows you to take hits to guard break the enemy and throw them into the wall, as you saw that there. However, this second Highlander cannot be thrown, which means you can't use the spikes against him. So it's kind of interesting because this is the one arena fight in this quest where there are spikes, but there's one character that unless you have a good shove, you're going to have a hard time getting into the spike wall. Now, the biggest thing to look out for with Highlanders, and this particular Highlander, is whenever you go for... He's going to try to bait out attacks from you a lot, because he can turn them against you with his superior block very easily. He doesn't even have to parry things, and he'll get that off quite frequently. So for the Shinobi sped up version, we'll talk a little bit more about that uninterruptible and give you a lot of examples of why it doesn't work against the second Highlander, and it can be very frustrating. Essentially, you can grab him all you want. Because you have uninterruptible, anytime he starts a swing, you can safely guard break him. Even if he gets the swing off, you'll take some damage, but because you're guard breaking, won't be too much, and you'll be able to hold him, but you won't be able to fling him afterwards. So you do have to fight the second Highlander normally. And as you do so, be aware that if you are doing the stupid thing that I was doing here and repeatedly guard breaking, he will get revenge, but just wait it out and then take him down. Highlanders are pretty easy to handle with any dodge type character. But dodge type characters don't fare well during this final quest, and that's why I can't recommend dodge characters for this quest specifically. Alright, so brace yourselves, for to the victor goes the spoils. This phase is one of the hardest things they've thrown at us in a while. And that's just because of how these modifiers interact with the characters that are using them on this map in the small arena. It makes it really difficult. So to start off during the Shinobi fight that we're showing here, I want to talk just about Gudmundur. Gudmundur's the easiest character for you to deal with. If you can, try to clear him before the other two engage you, as he will be the first one that you have to fight regardless, but if you take too long, they will fight you. Warlords, as usual, are pretty simple to deal with. He stuns you a little bit, and that can be hard because he's often going to guard break you while you can't tell what's going on, but he himself is really the easiest of these three to handle, and not someone you really have to worry about. However, if you leave him alive for the final phase, he can hassle you along with the other two and make your life just that much harder, which you really don't want to deal with. However, I show you right here that if you end up somehow magically leaving him for the very last, then he is the easiest way to finish out the fight. I really don't recommend trying to do it the way I just showed, though. That was kind of just the incidental way I finally won with the Shinobi. So with that, we'll move in to some of the more difficult discussion for this fight while we begin to show off what I'm doing with my Orochi. The hard parts about this fight is definitely the Raider and the Valkyrie. The Raider has just one simple modifier: he's unblockable, but that's awful for a Raider whose attacks deal heavy damage in the first place. The Valkyrie, as an alternative to that, is uninterruptible. This is about the worst thing you could put on a Valkyrie, and the reasoning for this is unless you're parrying her attacks, she's going to be able to get off her sweeps that knock you onto your feet repeatedly. You can use revenge to place yourself through these, but parrying the opponent will not prevent you from being swept off your feet. You'll be mid-parry, and then suddenly you'll be on the ground getting destroyed. That's the biggest thing you have to look out for here. And this fight really is pretty awful for that reason alone. You continue to carry on through, focus the Valkyrie down first because she's the worst. The Raider may be scary because of his unblockables, but again, he's a little easier to escape from, and you can use the minions to heal yourself, which is another big benefit. It is a little harder to do so, as mentioned though, because the arena is so tiny. So we're now going to get into my Aramusha's attempt and clear, but as we do so, I'll just sum up again from the beginning, because this quest is hard, and I just want to make sure I'm clear about the kind of things you have to be aware of, and the kind of approaches you need to take to actually get your way through this. So, for the Aramusha, handling the Warlord at the beginning is easy, because you have a full block stance that you can counter out. Any character, I would say, with a full block stance handles well. As you take him down, remember that he swings out a lot of slow attacks, but will occasionally feint them so he get extra damage on you. This is a little bit of a time test here, so make sure you're getting him, because you want to get rid of him before the other two engage you. However, if you do need to, always remember that you can go kill the little minion to score some extra health. As you finish off the Warlord, try, if you can, to save your revenge. I don't do it here, but if you save your revenge and lock onto the other two as they run up towards you, you can begin the fight with a revenge. This tactic often got me closer to victory than any other tactic did at the beginning. As you're fighting them, focus on the Valkyrie, because the Valkyrie is the one you have to be the most worried about because of her uninterruptibles, and you need to make sure you're getting parries off on her. However, do be aware of the unblockables from the Raider and use them when you can. Every time you get revenge, try, rather than attacking, to be parrying hits. The reason for this is the Valkyrie's uninterruptible makes it very hard, very, very hard to actually handle her, even when you're in revenge mode. But if you get those parries off, you floor her a couple times, and you do your maximum grounding punish, you will come out on top. Well, that ends this tutorial video. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, modifiers modify your playstyle. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you guys get the clears, because that last phase is a little bit of a struggle. Looking forward to making another one of these, and I'll see you all next week.